Hello, my name is Jan Boyd. I'm founder and chief executive of Environmental Management and Solutions Limited, otherwise known as EMS, and we are based on Preston Road in East Hull, in East Riding of Yorkshire. The company's been running since 2009. We are an incorporated charity, and our strapline is to work with communities to alleviate food and fuel poverty. And we do that in a range of different ways. We started off in neighbourhood management, where we were working with residents to ensure the needs of the services that were delivered to the estate, be it housing, the police, social services, actually met the needs of the residents and they were happy with those services. We used to do patchworks with various organisations, and we used to do doorstep consultation. And as part of that consultation, we discovered that there was some horrendous problems with food poverty, not just on Preston Road, but in Hull in general. And around 30,000 children are currently living in below the poverty line in Hull. And somewhere in the region of a quarter of parents miss meals to actually feed their children. So as a result of that, we developed our affordable food project called Hull Community Shop, and we received some seed funding from Hull City Council to set that up as very much a pilot. And what we do is we will visit multiple supermarkets a week, and we will take their surplus produce and turn that into affordable food for residents. We also work with manufacturers like Aunt Bessie's, Soane's, and Cranswick Limited, and we take their surplus produce or previous staff sales produce, and we also turn that into affordable food for residents. But we also have a ready meals project that will feed it to a family of 4, and about 90% of the produce that goes into those has actually come as surplus from the food manufacturers. We also have good links with FareShare, and we get a delivery once a week, any additional items that have been donated to them. So we will tend to take everything, pop it on the shelves, and the residents will pay for that as part of a donation. So we're very much diverting a large quantity of food from landfill, and it's actually going to feed families instead of going to waste. So that's one of the side of it. I suppose we also live in the biggest food desert in the UK, which is the Marfleet ward, which means that residents have no real access to affordable food on their doorstep. So they have to travel by either car or bus to get to a larger supermarket. And the problem with that, of course, is if they're at a larger supermarket, it's going to cost them money to get there, and that pretty much bites into their budget. And they could be missing sort of whole day's meals because they've had to pay for a taxi to get there. So we've been looking at alternative ways to work with residents so that they'll actually be able to have their own produce. We have community allotments throughout the city where we take redundant land or unused land, primarily owned by Hull City Council, and turn that into community allotments. The idea of the community allotments is it's very much neighbourhood based. So we do leaflet drop residents who live in the immediate area or in walking distance of the site. And when they have signed up, we will do a full consultation with those residents to establish what their levels of expertise are when it comes to growing. And we will partner up novices to people who've got more experience. But the plot holders, as we call them, once they've signed up for the project, make all the decisions after that, the layout of the allotment, what equipment they want on site, with eventually they'll take over actually running the site, and we have very minimal input once the project is up and running. We are just primarily responsible for the funding and making their requests happen. We also do work with East Hull Community Farm. We took a large area of land there that hadn't been used for anything and turned it into a growing space, and the farm sell that produce on site as homegrown. We also have a number of volunteers that now work on that site who've got themselves into a guerrilla gardening group, and they look after that site 2 days a week. So it's actually been up and running for 7 years now. And even with COVID, they've still been able to visit the site while the farm's being closed and actually access fruit and vegetables. As a positive note of that, the farm also send us a lot of their produce. So we've had lots of apples and pears and things delivered to the shop, and we put them up, and the residents will get extra fresh produce for a donation. And you can see it's homegrown because it does have some of the blemishes and stuff attached to it. And I think residents appreciate it more because of that. We also work with schools in environmental education. We've done quite a lot of work since about 2013. We had quite an extensive Homes to Roost project where we went to an organisation that makes wood produce out of reclaimed wood. So all of their wood is recycled, and asked them to make us a range of bird and bat boxes, but flat packed them with different holes in the front of the bird boxes and different style bat boxes. And we took them into primary schools with various tools and equipment, and the children actually put the bats and bird boxes together. But as part of that process, they learnt the importance of birds and bats into the wildlife, why we need them. And each school got provided a booklet, and the booklet told them what to expect in each bird box, with a different size hole in the front or a different design, or what bats they would get in those boxes as well. We numbered all of the boxes and have a list of them all, and the schools will monitor any usage of them. We also distributed them to community growing spaces and community allotments, and we still monitor them now to make sure they're all sort of still up and running. Some of them are very brightly coloured, that may detract from the birds, but the children had a whale of a time putting them together. We also went into residential homes and did some bird and bat boxes with the residents there and hung them up. We had a story from a lady who was about 89, and she said she'd never actually screwed anything together in her life. So she was very proud that she put this bird box together and decorated it. We have a trees in schools project where we've been planting 4,000 trees in primary schools around the city. But it's not just about planting trees, it's about getting children involved actively in the environment and why it's important to have trees, and why trees are necessary for their health and the health of the land around them, and how to look after the trees, how to prune the trees, and what fruit they expect to get off the trees, and how to harvest them and prune them back. So they've actually learned all that, and they have planted all the trees as well. So we would get them off the legs of the Woodland Trust. So there's quite a lot of English native trees that went in, and they planted them all as what we would call whips, very small trees. And we've actually also put them into community growing spaces, allotments and parks and gardens as well. So that project has been running for about 2.5 years now, and it's been very successful in that respect. We also linked the schools with regards to nature spaces. So we've done some work in schools to help them with wildlife meadows. And on the back of that, we work with the children to why wildlife meadows are important and why flowers are important to everyday life, and the different types of bees and birds and insects that would use those meadows. We've also eco-designed various gardens. We've done willow weaving, seats and benches out of reclaimed materials that the children have decorated and designed, all with an emphasis on the education of why we're actually using reclaimed material and not the new stuff, and the benefits of that. The children have also made things like bug hotels and why we need insects in everyday life and how they help us with the environment. It all links together with our ethos of that we're actually helping to protect the environment and reduce residents' carbon footprint. One of our latest projects is we're going to be working with residents to grow in their back gardens so that they don't have to travel to the supermarket to get nutritious food. They can actually grow it in their back garden as part of our plant it, grow it and eat it at home. But it's very much about emphasis on education and learning new skills. So not only will the children and the adults learn how to plant seeds and grow seeds, to learn about layouts and designs of the garden, but also how to cook that produce at the end of it. So it's very much about improving skills. It's also about working together as a family or a community within the allotments, and increasing levels of activity and exercise. The long-term plans for the organisation is to put ourselves out of business. I mean that in a wholly meaningful way. We are the fifth richest country in the world. We should not be having to give residents surplus produce to live on. So in an ideal situation, we wouldn't need to exist. But as we continue to do so, our longer term plans is to expand our community shop into at least 5 other areas of the city. And we're hoping to do that with some help from Hull City Council and some other organisations where we'll put them into community centres. And that means that organisations from all over the city will have access to not only a selection of affordable ready meals, an abundance of surplus produce that would otherwise be landfilled, but they also get the opportunity to try a range of different foods as well, because we pick up from everywhere from Marks and Spencer's to Lidl, so we have quite a section of food for them to pick up. It's obviously beneficial to the supermarkets because they are having their waste reduced, but I think it's 100 times more beneficial to us because that we can ensure that residents get fed.